The latest Drewry webinar. My name is Sean Fairley. Today's topic is India's maritime vision, shipbuilding, ship repair, and shipping. So this presentation will take around 30 minutes, followed by a short question and answer session. So if you have any questions, you're able to type these in the question panel on your screen, and we will endeavor to answer these questions at the end. If we are not able to answer, given the time permitting, we will get back to you via an email. So don't worry in that respect. So I think if we move to the next slides. This is the agenda for today. And as I say, at the end, we will have a short question and answer session. Next slide. Yeah, so most of you attending this webinar are familiar with Drewry already, but I'll just take a few moments for those who may not be so familiar. Established in 1970, Drewry has been active in the shipping industry for well over 50 years, with offices in London, Singapore, Shanghai, and Delhi. Drewry has four main business units: maritime research, maritime advisory, supply chain advisory, and maritime financial research. In terms of the advisory unit, Drewry provides independent services to a wide range of clients, including shipping companies, financial institutions, port authorities and operators, and government entities. This encompasses a wide range of product remits, including strategic planning, due diligence, feasibility studies, financial advisory, etc. In terms of the maritime research, as you can see on the screen, Drewry provides comprehensive market reports on all the main shipping sectors as listed, in addition to ports and terminals. As part of this information, it is published in both publication format and also on a web-based platform known as Drewry On Demand. So please contact us if you have any questions on any of these topics. We'll be more than happy to answer you. Okay, let's move on to the presentation. This presentation will be hosted by Jayendu Krishna and Shailesh Garg. Jayendu is the Director and Head of Drewry Maritime Advisory in Singapore. Jayendu has numerous experience in advisory, working mainly on shipping and port-related mandates. Meanwhile, Shailesh is a Director and General Manager of the Indian office with over 28 years of experience in consultancy in shipping, ports, and logistics. And I'm also on the screen. My name is Sean Fairley. I've been working for Drewry for a few years, 3 or 4 years now, previously in ship finance in Singapore, Amsterdam, and London. So yes, let's move over to Shailesh, who will start the presentation.
Hi, thanks, Sean. Thanks for the kind introduction and for setting the scene. And hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar on India's Maritime Vision 2047. As Sean just mentioned, India's maritime sector is at an important inflection because of the initiatives taken by the government. This creates a significant opportunity for various stakeholders. But we are also aware that it raises some important questions. But before getting into some of the specifics, I will briefly talk of how India's maritime ambition has evolved and why Vision 2047 is important and may be different from the previous initiatives taken by the government. So taking you through the development phase of our policy in India for maritime. As you know, India is one of the most populous nation and the 6th largest economy as of now, with a major role and stake in global seaborne trade. But somehow parts of the maritime ecosystem have historically lacked development and our full potential. India's maritime development has moved through phases, as we can see, starting as early as 1998. The first major policy initiative came through public-private partnership programs, primarily through port capacity expansion, which saw development of some major container terminals and modernization of ports in India. And then some of the terminals are NSICT at JNPT and privatization of Chennai container terminal in east coast of India. This was then followed by policies which promoted for the promotion of interland connectivity improvements and capacity development. Privatization of container train operation was one of the important aspect of that. And this was further taken as a more focused policy push, which came in 2010 with National Maritime Agenda, coupled with port development plans, Sagarmala program, and waterways, inland waterways initiatives, etc., which led to development of Maritime Agenda 2030, which was done in 2020. So that was like more or less 20 years of development history of policies. And now we are at a juncture where we are looking for a new action plan, which is called as Maritime Amrit Kal Vision 2047. This, as we know, that despite various interventions and policy push, India was unable to unlock its full maritime potential. And during various stakeholders and engagements, the key reasons which came out and were identified for this was lack of cohesiveness in various plans because multiple agencies were involved, and also limited focus on long-term planning. So to overcome some of these challenges, Indian government has launched a Maritime Amrit Kal Vision 2047 in 2023. This covers 25-year period up to 2047, which will mark our 100 years of India's independence. And this plan is more holistic, long-term, covering just not the physical infrastructure, but also looking into various other themes like green and safe maritime, training and research, which is a very important aspect, technology and smart ports, AI-enabled port ecosystems, development of Indian tonnage, again, very important aspect in this policy, and financial and regulatory support to really make this plan successful. So if you see the future trajectory of Maritime Amrit Kal through this roadmap, this vision has set ambitious targets to progress and develop into global maritime power by 2047 by using all the available levers to do that. And as we look at the past, this may look ambitious, but I think directionally consistent with our broader aspirations and development plans to become third largest economy and a developed nation. So port and logistics will play a critical role and a catalyst to achieve this. So in that direction, this is a right step. The three main pillars of this policy are shipbuilding, shipping, and ports. So government is just not focusing on the supply, but also committing to support the demand side. The approach is moving from incremental expansion to system level redesign, seen as a catalyst for developing industrial and geopolitical capabilities. And this has become more relevant and strategically very important in the present scenario. And this explains why policy support is targeting finance, infrastructure, skills, technology, and demand aggregation together as a one plan. However, in this session, we'll focus mainly on shipbuilding, ship repair, followed by discussion on development of Indian shipping tonnage. Although we recognize that these are areas connected to ports, logistics, which will be covered in our next webinar session next week. So coming to the shipbuilding, ship repair aspect of the plan, I'll start with just looking at very quickly on the current scenario where we are. So as we say, no prizes for guessing. Asia dominates shipbuilding, with China accounting for more than 65% of the market share of the current order book as on June 26, followed by South Korea and Japan, 19 and 6% respectively. It is clear that other countries, including India, have a long way to go to come anyway close to these three major shipbuilding nations. India, with less than 0.5% market share in the global shipbuilding, is currently placed at 11th position and intends to enter the top 10 ranking in another 4 years, that is by end of 2030, and reach top 5 by end of 2047. So in terms of numbers, market share and market share, this may not look very significant because as we can see, Vietnam, which is currently at number 5, has less than 1% market share. But we should note that India starts from a very small base. So this is also a target to achieve if we can achieve in next 20 years. Just quickly looking at the current ecosystem of Indian shipyards. Indian shipyard is dominated by public and defense sector, which is focusing on building naval frigates, submarines, support vessels, patrol boats, to some extent offshore support vessels, and also involved in ship repairs. And I just want to highlight that we, as an Indian shipyard, Cochin Shipyard has also built an aircraft carrier, Vikrant, INS Vikrant. So, whereas most of the private shipyards have been mainly involved in building smaller vessels, including some recent deliveries of electric hybrid vessels. Recent entrant in the ecosystem is Swan Defense and Heavy Industries, which has taken over the Pipavav shipyard and as an emerging private sector participant, having capabilities to build both defense and large commercial vessels. In fact, in April 26, it has secured order to construct 492,500 DWT dual fuel ammonia bulk carriers. These vessels will be India's first domestically built ammonia powered ships. So this highlights that India already has a foundation across defense, PSU, and private capacity, and therefore development of broader ecosystem and government support will help in scaling commercial shipbuilding in India. As already discussed, this time government initiatives are focused both on supply and demand creation. So some of the targets which we can talk of is another important aspect has been constructing 1,000 new commercial vessels over next 2 decades. And this is primarily to strengthen domestic manufacturing and maritime self-reliance. And we have just discussed how important that is. Further, shipbuilding is not only being seen as a providing economic benefits, but also a strategic step towards enhancing national security and autonomy. As we know that India depends largely on its energy security on imports, and this becomes an important aspect. And as we say, merchant navy is the fourth arm of defense. So that's very important strategically also for India to have that autonomy. As a first step towards capacity creation, government has already identified multiple clusters both on the east and west coast of India. This time, government is following a cluster development model, which is necessary for the successful development of shipbuilding and repair capabilities and capacity. And we have seen similar approach adopted by other leading shipbuilding countries like China, South Korea, and that's we think that will be one of the key success factors if we are able to achieve that. The government's commitment is also looking much more stronger because just few days back the shipping ministry has given in principle approval for setting up 2 maritime clusters in Gujarat. This includes ship repair facility in Vadinar near Kandla port and a greenfield shipbuilding cluster in Porbandar. This shipbuilding cluster is aimed at providing around 1.2 to 1.5 million GT capacity, annual capacity. Similarly, Cochin Shipyard Limited and Swan Defense and Heavy Industries have received in principle approval from the National Shipbuilding Mission for brownfield expansion of their facilities in Cochin Pipavav. So these are some of the recent examples which shows that it is just not the plan which we are talking, but government is very proactively taking actions to really make it happen. And that's something very positive we are seeing this time. As part of the maritime vision, government initiatives are aimed to facilitate and incentivize private investment, and that would be one of the key catalysts for achieving the targets of this plan. This includes government funding, including an 8 billion reform corpus, financial assistance for vessel construction, and around $2.9 billion maritime development fund coupled with green and hybrid vessel incentives. In addition to this, proactive measures are being taken for infrastructure and cluster development, global collaboration, finance innovation, which includes interest subsidy and ship breaking credit notes for vessels being scrapped and the owners constructing the vessels in India, Indian shipyards. And also supported by domestic demand aggregation through public sector undertakings like PSU oil companies and other trading arms, and also promoting the coastal shipping in India, which we will be discussing in the next few slides. The overall aim of this policy is to provide a complete framework to reduce cost disadvantage, which has been a major hurdle for developing India's maritime infrastructure, especially the shipbuilding and ship repair business. Improve finance access, which again was a problem area, and create predictable demand for Indian yards. As we were talking of international collaboration, we can see that already countries like South Korea, Japan, France, and countries from European Union, Russia, Denmark are looking for collaboration with India. And this is important to convert the plans into actions which we are looking for next 20 years. India is actively seeking this rather than attempting to build capability in isolation. This is for all segments, example, commercial shipbuilding, naval and defense partnerships, and also including green vessels, smart ship technology, and transfer of design. And in my opinion, this could be a key differentiator this time, as international partnerships are important and will be central to accelerating India's shipbuilding learning curve and supply chain integration, which is necessary for turning the plans and targets into reality. Because as I say that we have a small window for execution, and execution is an important aspect this time. If we can really make it happen in next 3 to 4 years, what we are planning, I think we'll break the inertia and we'll be in the right frame to take this forward to 2047. So I'll end my presentation here and hand over to Jayendu. Jayendu, to you.
Yeah, thank you, Shailesh. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. So thank you, Shailesh, for elaborating the shipbuilding in great detail. Now I'll move on to the shipping aspect. So as you know, the shipping and the shipbuilding are very much intertwined, and therefore the objective or the aspirations which the government has set for shipbuilding, you see the similar aspirations for shipping as well. Currently, what you can see in the chart to the bottom right corner of your screen, it shows the flag state ranking of India, which is currently 20, and you can see at the far right of your screen, and which is very minuscule currently. And no wonder that given that the Indian rank is about 20, more than 90% of the Indian origin and destination cargoes are transported by the foreign flagged ships. And therefore, the government of India has aimed to move up from rank 20 to 10 by 2030 and to 5 by 2047. In order to reach or meet these goals, the government of India has plans to really create a level playing field for the Indian ship owners. Now, moving on to the next slide, you'll see the initiatives which government of India has taken. The first one is the right of first refusal for the Indian flag vessels. So there are cases where the number of Indian flag vessels are very limited, and therefore foreign flag vessels bid for it, and sometimes they can win the bids as well. But this right of first refusal allows an Indian company to really match the bid if it is in the price band of about 20% or so. And there are lots of terms and conditions out there, but the whole idea is to really promote the Indian flag vessels. And this has been now extended for another 5 years to promote the scheme for promoting the Indian flag vessels. India also has a cabotage law, which means that the Indian flag vessels will be the only ones trading in Indian waters. Of course, there are exceptions out there. One of the biggest problems that Indian ship owners have faced in the past is the lack of finance. And therefore, Government of India has set up different organizations, one being Maritime Fund, the second one being Sagarmala Finance Corporation. And we'll come to details in a very short while, just quickly focusing on Sagarmala Finance Corporation. So it has already given funding to Dredging Corporation of India to the tune of about $16 million approximately. In order to facilitate financing of ships, uh, Indian government has now given the infrastructure status to the vessels. Earlier, it was very difficult to finance the vessels because, as we know, shipping is a capex heavy and it requires longer term financing. So earlier, the ship owners could not get it. But with this change in the status, it has become easier for the Indian ship owners to really seek financing in India. And similarly, the government of India has created what's called Gift City. Under that, you have International Financial Services Center, which essentially is aimed at really promoting the maritime finance, leasing, and insurance. And I'll talk about in more detail about the Gift City in the next slide. So going to the next slide, you'll see that before maybe Gift City, I just want to quickly focus on coastal shipping and inland waterways. So the aspirations are equally grand in terms of the coastal shipping and inland waterways. And in fact, in terms of the inland waterways, India has already made a lot of strides. But the aim is to really move from about 100 million tons now to about 500 million tons by 2047. And I have just left a small link for you at the bottom, which you can look at it at leisure, and you'll see that that is a small video promoted by Inland Waterways Authority, which shows that the project cargo is being moved on barges up the river in India. 10 years ago, it was very, very hard to conceive that you will see project cargo being moved up the river. And staying on that slide for a moment, you'll see that that video shows it's going really up the river to a refinery carrying some of these equipments for the refinery. And that is very close to my heart because it goes really very close to the place where I come from. And besides that, Indian government has already started some of the RoRo services and the RoPax services, which has made the transportation uh, fairly easy in some of the areas. Now, moving on to the next slide, which is more focused on the Maritime Fund. So, Indian government has established this Maritime Fund. Currently, it is under the aegis of SBI Ventures. And this is mainly to promote investment in India. And the Maritime Fund will be providing growth equity to the shipping companies or to the maritime related companies. Currently, the indicative corpus is about $3 billion, and the government of India will be contributing to the tune of about 49% of the equity to the fund. And the whole aim will be to really facilitate the funding for Indian ship owners and how to really manage the cyclicality and the asset risk. And Indian banks traditionally hasn't been very good at managing these cyclicality and the asset risk. But the hope is that with this maritime fund, Indian shipping companies will not have great difficulty in seeking funding from within the country itself. And this is also aimed at really inviting the foreign investors to participate in some of those ventures and in providing the growth equity. And now moving on to the next slide, which is more focused on Gift City. So the Gift City is more like a free trade zone. And it has two parts. One is the domestic tariff area, and the second is special economic zone. It functions much like any other special economic zone. And it is considered, or it has been devised like an integrated, you can say a unified regulator, which has the functions of SEBI, which is a regulated stock exchange, the central bank, which is RBI, the IRDAI, which is the Insurance Regulatory Authority, and the Pension Regulatory Authority. So all of these have been really unified as a one entity. And therefore, it is easier for the investors to invest in shipping or the maritime financing in Gift City. And as of end last year or early this year, you already had more than 1,000 companies established in the Gift City. Roughly about around 40 companies or 40 vessels have already been leased under this. And some of the big companies such as Reliance or ArcelorMittal Transworld and others, they have already established their presence in the GIFT city. So moving on to the next slide. So overall, if you put all of these together, you can see that and some of it Shailesh also mentioned earlier, that the government is trying to create the demand. And the demand creation, it will happen through some of the existing companies, like such as Shipping Corporation of India, which has already brought in some tenders for container ships. Government of India has also planned to set up Bharat Container Shipping Line, which is, you could say, a reincarnation of SCI, wherein some of the ports and Concord SCI will come together to form this company. And Government of India has already brought in many reforms, and some of which both of us have spoken about. So you can see there is a concerted attempt towards creating a demand, bringing out the policy changes in order to facilitating the financing, in order to ensure that India really achieves the aspiration it has by 2030 and 2047. Now, just concluding the whole thing, moving on to the next slide. What you can see here is there are a few key factors or critical success factors. What we think is really required is, one is the faster execution of the projects. India has had this problem traditionally of execution, but what we see is that now the execution of project is really happening in a much faster manner than we saw historically. And Government of India has already, in a sense, encouraged the public sector undertaking or state-owned enterprises to order out 400 vessels in the domestic shipyards. So it is creating a demand for the domestic shipyards already, though you don't have the facility or adequate facility at the moment. And all of these plans are being integrated. And all of these we can see very clearly in terms of some of the new orders which some of the shipyards have received. For example, Swan Defense, they have received the order for 6 container vessels of, sorry, 6 plus 6 chemical tanker vessels, or IMO 2 18,000 deadweight chemical tanker vessels. And CMA CGM has also ordered for 6 1,700 TEU container ships. So you can see already there is an increased interest from the foreign shipping companies in India. So whatever we have described so far, whatever Shailesh has said or what I have said so far, those are really not a blueprint. Those are actually already happening in India today. And we see as Drewry, in the next slide, you'll see that as Drewry, we have been already studying in India. We have been conducting the studies and assisting the clients to understand the demand prospects. We have been doing the traffic projections. We have been doing the financial feasibility assessments in terms of shipbuilding, in terms of shipping. In fact, we advise a client to invest in India for future-proofing their ships. So we are here to assist you if you really needed to benefit from the growth trends that we see in India. India is definitely open for business, and things are moving very fast right now. So I would really invite you to look at India as an investment destination in shipping, shipbuilding, and ship repair. And given that overall, if you look at the demand aspect, just to conclude, there are more than 10 to 20,000 unique vessels which are really passing by India, which means that there is a base demand for ship repair facility in India. You already have 1.3 billion people with about $5 trillion economy. And these again create a demand for shipping and the shipbuilding, etc. So you have an existing demand and you have a potential demand, plus you have the policy initiatives which are already being undertaken. And as I mentioned earlier, you have 400 vessels which are more or less going to be ordered in the shipbuilding industry. And at the same time, the last factor I would say the geopolitics. Geopolitics is again which is in favor of India at the moment. And therefore, all of these factors put together, I would say that there is all the key drivers are moving in the right direction. And which means it is really a right time for investors to consider India as an investment destination. So I'll stop here, and Sean, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Jayendu. We have some questions from the audience. I will just take them as in order. First question, how does the 40% shipbreaking credit scheme work? So I think that was probably one for Shailesh.
Yeah, so you get a credit for, so whatever your shipbreaking value is, you for the value of the scrapping which you do, you get a 5% credit on the new building cost for that. So that's how you basically the value of the ship is scrapped. The 5% of that would be used as to give you a credit for when you go out and build a new ship in India.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's clear. We have a second question is
just to add, we can give more details later probably, because that's there are certain other issues with that, but that's primarily the whole idea about it. Yeah.
Yeah, we can answer by email, maybe more depth. Yeah. There's a question about Indian flags. Maybe one for Jayendu. The question is, flagged in certain countries doesn't usually mean it's owned by that country. Is it different for Indian flag? And if not, why focus on Indian flagged?
Well, so Indian flag, of course, it has many advantages. It is not necessarily owned by India, but of course, Indian owners, it can be any owner from anywhere. But yeah, you'll have to then, if it's an Indian flag, it means it is under Indian administration. So you have to, if you look at it from the strategic perspective, it is definitely a very important issue, particularly the current framework when we see that there is so much of geopolitical issues going on in the world. Having Indian flag vessel, that definitely helps from the strategic perspective, to my mind. That's number one. Number two, of course, if you have the vessels, for example, what happened during COVID, right? You had lots of lack of availability of the vessels, you have supply chain constraints, etc. So if you have your own tonnage, it really helps you plan in your own way as well. So that's number two. Number three is also, if it's an Indian flag vessel, it is a revenue for India. It is an employment generation in India. And therefore, it helps for government as well in order to create the revenue. So you have multiple benefits of having an Indian flag vessels. And so it's definitely a very important initiative, I would say, that the government of India has taken in order to ensure that the vessels remain under some sort of control within India. And particularly given that you are transporting, catering to 1.3 billion people, and you are one of the largest importers and exporters in the world, then why not control it?
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, we have some more questions popping up. Next question is, what foreign exchange benefits do we see from localizing shipbuilding and ship repair activities? So what foreign exchange benefits do we see from shipbuilding?
Yeah, so as if I can take that question. So one is that if as an owner, if I go out and build a ship outside India, then I'll be paying in foreign exchange, probably in dollars. So the idea is that if we can build in India and pay it in rupees, that is one. And second, if we can create ecosystem which probably is giving us some benefit in procurements and other things for the equipments which are being built in India itself. So I think that all adds up to saving on foreign exchange for the country. So that's the idea. At this point, we are importing almost 60 to 70% of components which are being used in shipbuilding. So idea is that if we can create that ecosystem and support infrastructure for bringing in the equipment manufacturers also, which could set up shops and manufacturing facilities in India, and probably just not serve Indian market, but also other markets, and use India as a hub for that. So definitely our outflow of foreign exchange will be curtailed to that extent.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, also just to add one more point to besides what Shailesh has mentioned. So Indian government also has been trying to promote rupees. Of course, we are living in a dollar denominated world, and majority of the transactions are taking in the US dollar, happens in the US dollars. But there has been a concerted attempt from many countries, BRICS countries and many other countries, to really move away from the dollars. So this, as Shailesh said, this could be one of the ways to really control your own foreign exchange in a sense, or minimize the foreign exchange intervention in the country.
Yeah. Okay. Next question. There is the question is, there is demand, but realistically, when can the supply be ready in terms of capacity for shipbuilding and ship repair?
Interesting question. If I can
Yes.
start
So,
and Jayendu can add.
so it's basically there's an understanding there is demand, but when in terms of capacity will shipbuilding and the ship repair yards be available?
Yeah, so as I said, we already have an ecosystem. So it's not like we are starting from very scratch and there is all greenfield. So I think the government is tackling it from two angles. One is that expanding the brownfield, which can take much shorter period to create capacity, and another is greenfield. So it will be next. So we already have the capacity which is underutilized. So if we can really use that to start with, which is already we are seeing in some way happening, and then new yards coming in like Swan, which has redeveloped or restarted the Pipavav shipyard, which was lying idle because of financial issues, and they have taken over it. So that's immediate capacity which is available now to build ships in India. And expansion of, as I said, brownfields will immediately give capacity in next 1.5 years. So I think we will have capacity for increasing number of orders, and with the greenfield development over next 2 to 3 years, probably we'll have more capacity. So I'm looking at the time frame of additional capacity coming in next 1.5 to 3 years time. But as I said, we already have the capacity which is not fully utilized, so we can very well start utilizing that and increasing our utilization to take care of immediate demand coming in, which we are already doing, as Jayendu mentioned, for orders from SCI or CMS, CGM, and others.
Yeah, that's correct. So maybe just add one more point to Shailesh's points. That one is the brownfield capacity that which exists, and I can tell you that because we advise a lot of investors, and we can see that the investors are already evaluating the places, and they are really moving very quickly to make an investment. So I would definitely say that you will see some of the yards, maybe greenfield yards, coming up in next couple of years or so. But of course, taking a decision takes a time, but it is moving in the right direction, because we have been reached out by not one or two investors, but many more actually.
Okay,
of course, I cannot take the names because of the confidentiality issues, but it's happening on the ground.
We have another question, a good one, involving the seafarers. Question is, what reforms for seafarers' well-being are scheduled? So are there any reforms for seafarers for their well-being?
Okay, that's too specific a question with regard to seafarers from the Indian government. So I think we'll have to look into it in more detail as to what reforms are being undertaken for seafarers. But Shailesh, if you have to add, if you are able to add any point to that?
No, I was going to say the same thing, that specifically to seafarers, yeah, we may have to look into that aspect, but particularly focus is on increasing the skilled labor force and exposing them to the better training and work conditions. So I think that is an kind of introducing new technologies to reduce the workload and the pressures on the workforce involved, just not on shipbuilding but on seafarers, probably when it comes to shipping. So I think that is one aspect. And second, I think with the current problems which we are seeing because of geopolitical scenario, where our seafarers are getting stuck and also facing serious threat, government is taking some steps to really monitor where our shipfarers are and make sure that their well-being is taken care of through DG Shipping and others. But to answer specific, probably we'll have to get back with some specific answers.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Okay. I think we have time for one last question. The question is, India aims to move from 20th to 10th globally as a flag state by 2030. Based on Drewry's experience across the shipping markets, what milestones should the industry watch out over for the next 3 to 5 years to gauge whether India is on track? So the core question is, what are the milestones that on the shipping industry to watch over the next 3 or 4 years, 3 or 5 years, to see whether India is on track?
Okay.
So, yeah, Shailesh, please go ahead.
No, Jen, I'll just quickly add one point and you can take over. I think it would be one thing would be to see how these plans are being implemented and how we are seeing some of the new orders becoming actual reality. I think that would be one key for me to see the next 1.5 to 2 years, whether what we are just talking and discussing right now, whether that has turned into some reality in next 1.5 to 2 years, which I think will be. And just to give an example, if you look a couple of years back, we were 21st position and we are now 20th position in Indian flag, and in shipbuilding we were slightly lower than, but we have improved over last 1.5 2 years. So already I think that the direction is showing us that we are moving in the right direction, but we are missing the pace. So I think the execution, as I have shown in my slides also, is important. If we can really plan and make sure that our execution is right and in a short span of time without going through the past experience of delays and other things, probably that would be also a measure to see how fast we are executing our plans. Because if we miss this bus and this window of 3 to 4 years, then probably it will be hard for us to really catch up with this target. So I think next 3 years will be important, and execution of plans on the ground will be the key milestones to look for.
Yeah.
I'll just add a couple of points to it, and I'll break down what I said during my presentation. That I mentioned about 400 vessels, which has been aggregated from the PSUs or public sector undertakings and other associated companies. Just wanted to break it down further. So the plan is by 2030, the SCI, which is Shipping Corporation of India, will be ordering about 93 ships. And as Shailesh mentioned, it is there in the presentation, SCI has already ordered probably about slightly less than 10 ships already. So it's already started. That's number one. Then there are about 59 ships which will be ordered by companies like IOCL, BPCL, which are IOCL, for those of you who may not know, it is Indian Oil Company, and Bharat Petroleum Company Limited, and HPCL, which is Hindustan Petroleum. These are all national oil majors. So they will be ordering about 59, 60 ships. And then you have 10 ships which will be ordered by Bharat Container Shipping Line, which I mentioned about briefly, which is a reincarnation of SCI effectively in terms of container shipping lines. So this is about roughly about 160 ships, which will be ordered by either SCI or public sector undertakings in oil and gas or container lines by 2030. So this is one of the key milestones which is there, and you see some of them already being ordered, as Shailesh mentioned earlier. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I think that answers the question. I'm going to squeeze one more in. The final question. It's about the investors. What governance measures are evident that give investors confidence that India's ambitious plans will be translated into reality? So what governance measures are in place?
Yes, I think, Shailesh, if you're able to answer, that will be great. But I'll just start off. So what I have seen is, in many cases, a lot of things are being now automated, and it is happening through a platform. Earlier, it would happen through different channels. And for example, and a lot of things are being actually unified. For example, I gave an example of Gift City, which is a unified regulator, which is all of them have been combined into one. And the transparency in many cases have increased. We do see in terms of procurement and contracting, etc., we see increased transparency compared to what we saw in the past. Of course, there is some way to go, but we do see increasing transparency. So, yeah. And Shailesh, if you want to add anything else to this point on governance.
Yeah, I think I was going to add and say about transparency. This time, I think this is more structured, transparent through online portals. You can see what is the situation of your application, your request for whatever clearances you're looking for. I can see actually on the ground government reaching out to people, to stakeholders proactively, organizing sessions to understand their problems, work on them, and and that is where I think the change has happened. Second is more increased participation of some of the specialized agencies, like we were talking about SBI Ventures. They will be, and I had a chat with them, and they will be working more like a business venture rather than being a government entity trying to subsidize and promote some of the projects which probably are not as feasible on the paper, but it is being done for some political and other reasons. So I think involvement of these entities would make sure that we are just not trying to do certain projects for the sake of it, but also making sure that they are profitable, and when once the investment is made, somebody is tracking their progress and making right decisions to make sure that they are on the track. And second, these international collaborations and everything will bring the best practices definitely on the other side, where the yards and others will benefit. So I think this time it's a combination of both governance and also how the shipyards will be operating and managing whatever subsidies and support government is giving. It is just not that somebody is asking for subsidy. They will have to give clear proof and kind of meet their KPIs before money is released. So I think that's an important aspect. And that is what has happened very recently. Two shipyards like Cochin Shipyard and Swan Shipyard received their first installment of their interest subsidy once they met their whatever KPIs and the targets, whatever was agreed upon. So I think, and that is all one can go and see on the portal how it is being disbursed, which are the shipyards and how much money and all that. So I think it's more systematic this time. I hope this will help in better governance.
Yeah, no, I agree. Okay, we've run out of time. So I think we'll end it there, but we'll just say one last word. If we can go to the bottom slide, the slide which highlights the next presentation, which will be on the 28th of July on Tuesday. And the subject of the webinar is Spotlight on India, Indian Ports and Decarbonization, I should say. So we hope you can make it at that time. But in the meantime, the presentation that was just presented will be recorded and can be downloaded. And if there is some questions that haven't been answered, so we will endeavor to get back to you with a written response by email. So thank you everyone for attending, and wish you a very good day.
Yeah, so I just wanted to add one point, Sean. So this timing on this slide says 9 a.m. GMT. So we will have it at 9 a.m. GMT, plus we'll also have it at 3 a.m. GMT. So we will have it at 2 times.
Yeah,
on 28th of July. So you will be able to click when we send these slides. We will add registration details for 3 p.m. GMT.
Yes.
Yeah, that is it. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you, everyone. All right.
Have
a good day.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.